We'll begin the same way with the inside edges of the feet, just a couple of finger widths apart, and they're roughly parallel to each other. And we want to balance our weight, both front and back, and side to side, left and right, creating that feeling of pressing weight into the feet, and the engagement then of the leg muscles onto the leg bones. And then coming up into the hips, and sinking at the tailbone. Low belly just naturally comes alive. And let's run up the back body first. So tailbone sinks, back of the waist moving back a little bit. Coming up between the shoulder blades, up into the base of the neck, lifting up, lengthening the neck up to the base of the skull. And gentle feeling of elongating our spine. And then just bring the attention down the front body, the ribs lifted up a little bit. We're going to help that with our fingers just touching, tapping, or rubbing on the abdominal wall, having it engaged, drawing gently in. Okay, and then again, being aware of the back body, being aware of the lift through the ribs. And there's a little lift. It's small, but it's there. The shoulders just taking some of their weight off of our ribs. And then we'll bring our attention onto our breath, starting with our fingertips nice and low. And just run the fingertips on the center line with our in-breath. Letting the elbows lift, the shoulders lift, opening the arms without breathing. And breathing out, we'll breathe out initially through the lips, just slowing the breath down. And the in-breath again, up the center line. And we'll give ourselves one more. And then just pausing for a minute in this position, we'll just turn the palms forward and backward. So the hands, if you imagine holding, say, a big paperback book in each hand, that spaces the arms just away from the hips here. A couple more rotations. And when you're ready to, just soften the arms. Just see if we can let go of the arms. And then at the tops of the arms, just from the inside, lift up at the armpits, just that little bit. So there's that movement there. And then the base of the skull, down to the tailbone, sinking a bit. Energy back down the legs to the soles of the feet. We'll lift our heels. And when the heels are down, we'll lift the toes. And then our last time for the heels, letting them stay. Let's bring all the toes up for a moment. And then see if the little toes will go down and the big toes stay up. And then switching. And just back and forth. And then pausing when they all come up. And then lifting the inner arch and taking the weight to the outer edge. And then smoothly coming back in, just being careful with the knees as we roll back and forth. And then when we roll the weight inward, just pausing there, just keeping the toes up for a moment. So we feel the base of the big toe very clearly. And then let's put the big toes down. So there's that sensation, big toes pressing. We've taken some of the weight off the base of the big toe, and then release the other toes down. And just explore the experience there across the pad of the foot. Okay, so let's lift the front of the foot again to turn it out, and then swing the heels out. And just fine tune a bit if it feels too wide, just adjust. We're going to bend the knees. And the hands are on the hips. And we're just going to get a gentle circling at our hips. So if we keep our tailbone feeling a bit dropped, a little tucked, we're going to keep the back of the waist open. When we're ready to, we'll switch directions. And when it feels like it's the same number in each direction, when it feels balanced, just pausing in the center, and then draw a flat figure 8. At some point when you come through center, switch the direction of the movement. And then just coming smaller and smaller. Just see how small a movement you can make in one direction. And then when you've found a small movement, try it in the other direction. And then maybe pause for a moment and see if you can draw something that's almost imperceptible. The hips just going a little bit side to side, doing that loop on each side, trying it in the other direction. And then pausing when you're ready in the center, let the tailbone drop. Let the knees bend a little more. So a feeling of we're going to sit on a high chair there. And then rather than sit down, we'll slide the hands down the legs. We'll lean out, bend the elbows a little bit. When it's time to breathe out, tucking the tailbone further, pressing the waist backward. So we feel a bit of a drawing, stretching in the low back. Chin tucks as well. The base of the skull lifts. And then let the elbows draw the shoulder blades away from the spine. And nice long out breath. When it is time to breathe in, let's push on the hands, stretch the arms out, lift the shoulders, lift the heart, stretch out through the base of the skull. The tailbone still sinks down, just aims further back. And then again, when we're ready, we reverse with the out breath, tucking, rounding over, working into the back of the waist, lifting at the base of the skull. And reversing from here, With an in-breath, pressing on the palms, lengthening the arms, lift at the armpits and sink the tailbone. Lift at the base of the skull and connect down to the soles of the feet. And then the out breath, when we're ready to, rounding the back again, spreading the elbows, grounding all the way from the neck to the tailbone. When we're ready for an in-breath, now we're going to come tall. So release the arms, let the hands float up the center line, the elbows push up, the shoulders pull up. And we're going to keep drawing ourselves nice and tall, fingers reach, gaze is upward, hips going forward. And we're just going to look out front when we're ready. So we lengthen the neck here, we turn our palms to face outward. Using an exhale, just bringing our arms down. So when it is time for an in-breath, we'll sweep wide through the palms again, coming tall. And if the gaze goes upward, just gentle, doesn't have to go straight up at the fingers, goes forward as well as upward. And just stretch. So the shoulders come off, the ribs, shoulder blades up and wide. And the exhale, when we take one, bringing the arms down. Okay, we get down here, pausing for a moment. When we're ready, the hands go back on the waist. We need an out breath. We'll use it to turn the right side backward. We'll look behind and let the right arm release, pointing behind. We need an in-breath. We'll turn forward. We'll bring that right arm vertical. When we're ready to breathe out again, touching the opposite shoulder, just running the hand down the opposite side, going over as low as is comfortable for our equilibrium. When we're inhaling, we come up with the hand running up on the right side, back onto our hip. And the exhale turns the left back, releases the arm behind. The inhale brings us forward. Just flowing here with the breathing. So moving with our exhalation, with our inhalation. And we'll give ourselves one more cycle. So whenever we finish our left side, just pausing for a moment. And then let's take the feet a little wider apart again. So think of the heels as maybe just a bit past the shoulders. We're going to turn the feet inward and bend our knees. And we'll put one hand on the low belly, one hand down on the sacrum. We're going to get the sacrum, the hips to move forward, backward. So the place we're looking for is where we get a little tip forward to the sacrum, not pushed as far forward as is possible, but that feeling of dropping, And with that hand at the back of the waist, we can feel that the back is a lot flatter than what it might normally be. The low belly's drawn in, not tight, but that feeling moving like a balloon. We'll start with the hands on the hips, and we'll create a little movement side to side. And starting small, initially we often feel that stretch down on the sides, just out from the spine into the hip. So just gently warming that up. And then when it feels balanced side to side, come to the center. Bring the hands a bit higher now at the base of the ribs. The same movement. As we go to the side, just be aware of the ribs connecting to the hands. And then we'll pause in center, and we'll bring the hands a little higher and just turn the palms into soft fists. And the knuckles pressed against the ribs. When we go to one side, the opposite hand just presses a little bit more. And then when we feel balanced here, we'll come in the center. Let's release the arms and just swing them down. And we'll take them up as we breathe in. Just a comfortable separation. We'll rotate through the whole arm down into the shoulder and use that rotation to release the joint and lift the shoulder and feel the shoulder blade being moved here. And then just gently, the tailbone sinking, the base of the skull lifting. And then when we're breathing out, just let the arms move forward as they come down, maybe going just a bit wider apart. As they get lower, they maybe can turn a little deeper. Always being polite to the shoulder joint. And then somewhere where it's comfortable, again, we're pushing forward. And there's the shoulder blade. Now, see if you can press clearly into the feet. Find the tailbone, the base of the skull. Find the heel of the palm. Okay, and then soften the arms a bit so that they can move wide without generating effort down the arms, and they just float apart. And when we're ready, we're going to bend the arms. We're going to touch the fingertips. We'll open out 1 or 2 times here. Okay, and then let's pause when the arms are open. Left hand, move the chest, the shoulder, all the way to the fingertips, and then flow to center. And we're getting the upper body to go to the side. So the inner sensation, rather than any visual sense of how far we are going or should go. And then let's turn the neck. So we'll look to the palm, we'll look to the palm. So when we look at the left palm, just pause for a moment and turn the right palm downward. And then turn it as far around as you can. And to finish off there, bend the elbow. And then flow to center, smoothing the arms out, and then round to the other side. So we'll get this a couple more times for each side. So it's kind of awkward work on the back shoulder, the one we're not looking at, where we're bending the elbow. But gently getting the shoulder girdle there to work a little and more intensely. When we look right, that's our last one. Unwind back to center. Okay, inhale up again. Gently pressing. Not long here, just enough to check the tailbone, the base of the skull, and then pretty much straight down, rotating a bit more when we're ready. And that's right arm. It's gonna rotate the palm up, or excuse me, the fingers up, all the way in and down, and then the elbow pulls back, that left palm pushes forward. Maybe just 2 more sets here. So the next time the right goes back, send the elbow back, push out the left palm, but now turn and look at that right elbow. And then bring the right forward, the left back, and then turn, look at that left elbow. And then bring both arms out in front. Now here, soften the arm. We're going to take those fingertips, we'll touch the shoulder. We'll send them out again. So when they go out, just that momentary push, and then soften, draw them back in, touch the shoulder. Out again, momentary push, soften, touch the shoulder. When you touch the shoulder, let the fingers stay there. And then sweep the elbows in circles. At some point, changing the direction of the circle. And maybe 1 or 2 in the first direction, 1 or 2 in the second direction. When it feels equal, just send the elbows out to the side, open out the arms. Right here now, see what's happened to the spine. Get the tailbone to drop, the base of the skull to lift, and the in-breath, bring the palms up. And let's see if the palms can come in facing each other, lifting gently but clearly in the shoulders. Maybe the fingertips touch here. And then to touch the palms, soften the elbow, bring the elbows wider, and just see if you can bring the heel of the palm just onto the skull or just above the skull. And then from there, separate the hands, just the fingers near each other, and then rotate so the palms face toward the ceiling. Okay, now easily, softly move the elbows back a little more, but not enough that we compromise the length in the spine. So check the base of the skull, the drop of the tailbone. That's probably enough of that. We're going to soften the arms, let them go wide, let them float down. Okay, and then just some gentle, rotating the palms forward and backward. Let the arms release. Pick up the heels, swing the heels in, plant the feet again so the legs are straight. We're going to get our legs a little wider. So just walking them out, new position. So the legs have been in a kind of a fixed position for a while. Let's mobilize them. I'm going to turn up my right leg. I'm going to bend it and just lean that way. And back and forth. So we're not trying for anything big or deep yet. We just want to play with the knees, the legs a little bit here. Keeping the torso basically to the side. Giving ourselves permission to work with different distances between the feet. Just seeing what's a comfortable distance for today. And as we find a comfortable distance, maybe coming a little lower. So there's the forearm touching the thigh. Or a little higher, we have the hand touching the thigh. So now if it's okay for us for the forearm to touch the thigh, try that once more for each side. Now, if that's okay, when you get to a new side, put the forearm on the thigh, but then the backhand, let's try for something a little bit deeper. See if the backhand, the fingertips can just touch the ground. And then again, we'll just in-breath to come up. We'll go to the other side, forearm on the thigh, and then maybe the fingertips touch the ground. So it is important for us that we work with the distance between the feet, that we put that distance to use for us. It does vary day to day. So if this is working, just try, rather than putting the forearm on the thigh, so that opposite hand just goes straight down for the ground. The hand that was on the thigh, it can touch the sacrum. And you can take an instant here to see if you can create a gentle, small little tuck at the sacrum and then press up. This doesn't have to happen quickly. You know, we want a tempo that's profound on our body. So we bend the knee, touch the hand, the fingertips, got another hand on the sacrum, and we just create that little bit of tuck to the tailbone. And we come up, we translate when we're ready to the other side. So some things we can explore. We are exploring the tailbone. That's always important. We can explore the back leg, right? There's so many angles we can take on the ankle. Some of them give us a nice stretch down in the calf area. So the official angle is the one that's both comfortable and powerful. And if we want to try something a little different on that back leg, once we've adjusted our tailbone, we can swing that back heel off of the ground. Okay. So whenever you come up, just pause for a moment, just see how things feel, balance the weight in the feet. We're going to add a step here to take this a little deeper. I'll take up my right leg. So my left hand touches down. I'm going to bring up my left heel, my back heel, and then I'm going to touch the knee down. I'm going to pick the knee up again, put the foot down, bring myself up. So then turning to the left side, left hand, I'm just going to take it to the sacrum. I'm going to lean out. I'm going to touch the fingers first. Then I'm going to bring the back knee down. Take the back leg up, then the hand leaves. So as we make the transition for dropping the back knee, there's a hand on the ground. And just find a comfortable tempo that works with our breath, that gives us a chance to be aware of what we're experiencing. Okay, and then when it feels like that's the kind of equivalent side to side, when that's balanced, we'll just pause here for a moment. So where we're going from here, we're going to do a few things with one knee down rather than just kind of touch the position, transition out of it. So what we may need is a bit of padding for the back knee. So that can be, a bit of blanket, small cushion. And so probably now's the time to find something if we do want to have something. And when we've kind of sorted that out, just give yourself a moment with this wide straight leg stance. We're going to work for just this standing moment with the tailbone again. So I'm going to put one hand back on the sacrum, one hand on the low belly, and sinking the tailbone. We don't have to spend long here, but just that feeling of it dropping down rather than it sticking outward and back. And just run the hand at the back of the waist. Again, looking for that kind of vertical feeling, not a forced place, but it keeps the lumbar vertebra open. So when we're ready to go, let's turn out the left leg, bend the left knee, so the backhand, the right fingertips, they touch down, and then the back knee comes down. And then we bring ourselves up, so we get both hands up. Okay, so the bent knee, that arm goes straight out from the shoulder. The back leg, that arm comes up vertical. So this back side is long, from the knee on the ground up to the palm. The front side, that palm pushes forward, the back palm pushes upward. We rotate the arms, we tuck that tailbone, we lift up at the base of the skull, and we press through our palms. So we're looking to gently generate a stretch. There's a couple of places we want to connect. We want to connect the two palms together, and they connect between the shoulder blades. We want to connect that upper palm to that lower knee. We want to lift up at the base of the skull. And just give yourself another nice long inhale and exhale. And when you're ready to release, soften the arms. Let the arms touch down for a moment. Once the fingertips are in contact, lift that right knee, drop the right heel down, and just pull back up. Once we're back up, we're going to turn to the other side. And so we're going to bend the right knee, left fingers touch, left knee goes down. So left heel's off the ground. So once again, back leg, that arm's vertical, front leg, that arm straight out from the shoulders, dropping the tailbone, lifting at the base of the skull, pressing out through the palms, and connect the work of the arms up right between the shoulder blades there. Fill that place. And then come up from that place to the base of the skull, come down from that place to the tailbone. Okay, and let's release. Let the arms soften, let the arms come down, fingertips touch, and then the back leg lifts, the heel goes down, and we pull up, and we turn to center. Now from here, when we're ready, we're going back to the other side, so the knee bends, opposite hand, fingertips touch, back knee drops. We bring ourselves up. Now this time, take both arms out in front at shoulder height. And then press outward with the palms. And then from here, turn halfway to the back leg side. So we've turned inward a bit and just push out through the palms. Once we're pressing through the palms, we lift at the base of the skull. We sink the tailbone, keeping the back body long. And then turn back to the center, straight ahead. Release the hands down, lifting the back leg, bringing ourselves up. We're going to do the same thing, other side. So we turn, back hand touches, back knee drops. And then we come back. So we're tall above the hips. When we're ready, both arms straight out from the shoulders, rotating through the arms, pushing out at the base of the palms. And then turning just halfway to that back side, pressing out, lifting up at the base of the skull, dropping down at the tailbone. Okay, and then soften a bit. We'll turn back to center. We're going to take the arms down. Once we're in contact with the mat, with the hands, we lift the back leg, and then we bring ourselves back up, turn to center. And then once again, turning round to the other side, back hand lands, back knee lands. Okay, we bring ourselves up. Now for this one, so we've got the left leg in front. I'm going to put the left forearm on the leg. The right arm, I'm just going to drop it down, sweep it up and back. As I get it up just forward of, so if it's a clock, there's 12 o'clock, come to about 2 o'clock. Start to lean out and then rotate the arm. So the thumb points out, the fingers face down. And then before we go fully into the body here, work with the base of the skull. So kind of lift up, push forward, find that, tuck the tailbone, and then push out through the base of the palm. So we're going to shift weight forward as we push through that upper arm. We reach along the spine, sinking the tailbone, and we let the eyes go down towards that front thigh. Just pushing and reaching. And we're going to come out with an in-breath. So soften, let that right arm lift up. Just let it swing back down. And then put the fingertips on the mat. And the back knee lifts. We bring ourselves up. And we're going to transition again. So our opposite knee turns out. Back hand touches the mat. Back knee touches the mat. Coming up a bit so that we can put the forearm on the front thigh. So right here, we can shift forward a little bit. And right here, actually, we can just check in with the back body. So this left arm sweeps back, comes up vertical, and then at about 2 o'clock, it pauses, it does the rotation, and then we double check the core, the tailbone, the base of the skull, and then pushing outward, moving forward as we push. Okay, and then let's soften. So we're going to soften that reaching arm, lift it up again to 12 o'clock, and move it back down. Drops down to 6 o'clock, comes forward, fingertips touch, the back knee lifts. Bring ourselves back up. Just pause for a moment. Now, when we're ready again, we're going to our first side. the other side. So that knee bends, the back hand touches, the back knee drops. Okay, so bring myself up. So now the opposite arm. So my back arm, that elbow just touches down onto the thigh. So this is my left leg in front, so my left arm can come back and up, and just get that shoulder up and over in an easy way. Create a gentle rotation in the arm, not quite as intense as what we've worked with before. And then we're just going to look off to the side. So I'm looking to the front leg side, to the left side. There's a little pressing out, but not at the sake of the shoulder feeling strained, and not at the sake of the tailbone or the base of the skull. So feel where they are, see if they need fine tuning. Okay, so we're going to leave by taking this upper arm vertical, swinging it low, bringing it forward, releasing that back arm, fingertips touch, back knee lifts and drops over. We bring ourselves back up. I'm just pausing here for a moment. When we're ready for the other side, leg turns, knee bends, back hand just reaches down, back heel lifts and back knee touches. We lift up. And so my back arm, elbow bends, it comes across and it comes over and just hooks somewhere comfortably on the front leg. The back arm, the front arm, right arm in this case, sweeps back and up. Again, at about 2 o'clock, it starts to rotate. This position won't give it as much rotation. That's okay. This position always gives us access to tailbone, base of skull. So we press forward, we're looking downward. And we're pushing out at the base of the palm, tucking the tailbone, reaching at the skull. Okay, and when we're ready to leave, upper arm softens, lifts, goes backward, drops down. We start to come up, so we release the arms. Back leg, that hand touches for sure. We lift the back knee, we straighten up, we come into neutral. We get here, we're going to pause. So we're going to stay with the legs straight. We're going to find a comfortable position. Often the joints really enjoy a little change in distance between the feet. Whenever you're ready to, both hands touch the right leg, and the out breath just slides the hands down. And let the head hang over. And we'll just give ourselves an extra breath here, just hanging the body over. And when we're ready to inhale, we use the in-breath to bring us back up. Hands across the belly. Use the exhale just to melt down the other side. We're going to get a breath or two here. When we need a breath again, we'll use it to come back up. We'll go back down the side. And when we do breathe in, bringing ourselves up. And then back down the other side again. And whenever we breathe in, bringing ourselves back up. Once we're back up, we're in neutral, nice and tall. Again, If the feet want to really be sensitive to when the legs want a little change, because we're just responding to the joints, really. So there's this place where the legs are comfortable and we can sink the tailbone and lift at the base of the skull. Now we're going to leave standing, and to do that, perhaps bring the feet a bit closer, the heels in, and then bend the knees and bring the hands above the knees. So kind of a fun way to think of this is kind of YouTube sumo wrestling, right? We're just kind of warming up for the big bout. So we want to get those big muscles in the thighs and the hips to do a little bit of work here. So we don't have to come all the way up. We don't have to go all the way down. We want the work to show up literally in the hips, the glutes, and the thighs. So right here, just that little bit of bouncing even in a small up and down is enough. And once we feel some of that heat in those big muscles, not the low back, but the big muscles, then we can just take ourselves all the way down. And literally all the way down. Once we get down, just stretching out the legs, and just giving them a little bit of a shake on the ground, side to side, up and down. And if you've got if you're on a carpet, a rug, this becomes difficult to just kind of wave the legs in and out. But if you're on a floor where you can, just open them in and out. And if not, just kind of bouncing, shaking. What we're looking for really is a wide distance that is a good distance for today. So it's kind of similar to where we were. Just a moment ago, we were standing, the legs straight. It's probably almost the same distance. So put some energy in the thighs again, some energy in the low belly, and just ease some length through the back body, coming up to the base of the skull. When it's time for a breath, reach out, reach up. So we want to draw up here. Want the shoulders to move and let the ribs have a little room to lift a tiny bit, but not a long time here, because when we exhale, we'll turn towards the right, swing the right arm back, and gently reach out through the fingertips in both directions. Look at that knee. And naturally, an inhale to come tall. Whenever it's time to breathe out, shifting to the other leg, reach in the fingertips. We need air. We'll use that to come back up. So we want a smooth, breath-based rhythm. Now, when we get over on our right side, whenever we get there, we're going to reach through the fingertips, but then we're going to put the hands down. So the right hand touches the ground. The left hand, it can just rest on the right leg. So we just find a placement here, and then we take the attention to the tailbone, the base of the skull. We make our adjustment, and then we gently work a bit with the elbows. So if the elbows kind of bend a little more, softly press apart, we're going to move the shoulder blades a little bit. And then use the breath to come into the low belly. And simply allow the body to melt down. Now, when it's an inhale, we'll use that breath to bring us back up. And we'll stay long through our exhale, staying in place, and another inhale. And then this is the exhale that'll take us left, reaching at the fingertips, and then bringing the hands down. And once the hands have connected, we sink the tailbone, we reach at the base of the skull. Lightly move the elbows wider. Take the breath to the low belly. And just melting down toward the leg. And the in-breath to come tall. Staying tall for an out-breath. Staying tall with another in-breath. And then when it's an out-breath, reaching forward. So land the hands in an easy place. The tailbone dropping into the ground, the base of the skull reaching forward. So that's a metaphor on the tailbone. You can't literally at this place push the tailbone onto the ground, but you can tuck it a little bit inside the core there. Having the elbows gently move apart. And we don't go forward at the expense of the length of the spine. Axial extension, the vertebra, little separation. It's really truly small, but it makes a big difference for a host of tiny muscles whose job it is to keep the vertebra connected. Okay, let's tuck the chin just a little bit. And then again, move at the base of the skull. Now, when we inhale, we're just going to lift up the right arm. So in-breath lifts the right arm. We lean a bit to the left. So we think of the arms for a moment as in one long line, connected through the shoulders. And when it's an exhale, take that right hand over to the left side. Let it touch anywhere on that upper arm and just melt toward the leg. And a fresh inhale is going to lift up that right arm again. And we can feel it long, the two arms like a long pole. And then we're going to release and sink over to the right side. Let the left arm naturally lift up. And then just keep coming with the left all the way over to the right side. Now, nice and slowly, we're going to go side to side. So one arm lifts, maybe experience that instant where the arms are in one long line, and then releasing, coming tall, and then melting right over. Just using a gentle, smooth tempo for today. What's today's tempo? Okay, so when both hands are at the right side, that's our last side. So after we do that, we simply bring ourselves up and give our legs a little shake. So when we're ready to shake the legs, hands go behind, weight into the palms, draw the knees in, float them off the ground, and just shake out the legs. So feel where your weight is, right? So see if you can tune where you've got the hands, where you've got the legs. So you're not sitting on your tailbone, not sitting on the sacrum, but you're sitting on the hips, what they call the sit bones. And then we find that place. And because it's so comfortable on the sit bones, we don't have to rush out of here. In fact, we can press the sides of the feet and the knees together, and then maybe just work with the ankles forward and back a little bit. We might want to keep the fingertips on the ground so we can find that we're staying on the sit bones, or we could bring the hands up. Maybe get a few ankle circles just to distract us. And then that's probably enough. Heels are down. So I've got my heels touching. I'm going to drop my knees apart, and then I'm going to bring my heels apart just a bit here. I want to sink the tailbone. I'm going to lift up. So what I want to do with my feet is interesting. I want to press the ball of the foot down toward the mat. And that outside edge of the foot, I want to kind of cut it down into the ground like it's a knife. And then I'm going to come up my legs. There's some energy here in the thighs. My tailbone is tucked. And I create the length. So I'm going to breathe up the arms. And they're going to go up and go wide. And then I'm going to start rotating them when they're wide and push out through the base of the palms. I want to feel the shoulders gently move away from each other, the shoulder blades move away from each other, the neck lifting. The gaze goes down, maybe looking at the heels or looking for the low belly. And again, check the back body. It'll shift out of alignment very easily. Okay, let's soften the arms. Have the arms melt down. And now let's transition ourselves onto our back. Our knees are bent. Swing the hips toward the heels and just lay the spine onto the ground. Just letting the body breathe. Now let's create gentle motion in the spine with a small rocking action in hips. Tailbone tucking a little more so that the waist, the top of the hips presses down a bit. And then on the inhale, just releasing the hips and having the diaphragm lift. On the exhale, just a little tuck at the tailbone. Let the base of the ribs be clearly on the ground, from the base of the ribs to the top of the hips. Every part may not touch the ground, but give it the opportunity to drop down. And moving smoothly a few more times. But start to be aware now of the weight in the soles of the feet. So we can add a little more even weight at the feet. And when it's an exhale, tuck the tailbone, lift it off the ground, press a bit more on the feet, and start to let the hips float up. And when we need a breath, sink the hips down, let some weight go into the hips, and then lift the ribs and really expand the chest, tucking the chin. Whenever you do need to breathe out, we're reversing. So we sink the spine, tuck the tailbone, and then push the hips up. And now let's hold right here. So hips are lifted. They're about shoulder height. Think of a line from the shoulders to knees. Hips in the middle. They certainly don't need to go above that line. Might be more natural if they're a little below. And become aware of what we've got going on in the shoulders and the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades, backs of shoulders, making contact with the ground. And let's put the arms to use. Make fists with the hands and the back of the fist, press it against the mat. So that's the pinky side, the outside of the fist, pushing against the mat. So there's energy in the arms. We still got the hips lifted. Make sure that there isn't really any weight on vertebra through the upper back. And then from here, we're going to lower the hips. So once the hips are down, just release the spine, soften the arms, but keep the arms in place. And then some gentle breaths, but tuck the tailbone. Reach out at the base of the skull, the chin is tucked. Want to soften the throat. Now bring the feet just a bit closer together. Find a solid place where you can push weight on the feet. And then breathing out, tucking the tailbone, lifting the hips, slowly coming up. And at some point, it's time to breathe in again. And we're going to put the ribs, the chest, the shoulder blades to work, down the arms to the fists. The chin is tucked. Okay, now feel if this is a solid place. If it feels like a solid place, then lift the left knee, move the left knee toward the nose, and then put the left foot back down, and then bring the right knee in toward the nose. Knee stays bent, and back down, and either put the hips down or try it once more for each side. And in either case, whenever the hips go down, we get a release. Okay, so once we've done that release, we grab the knees, move them toward the armpits. So we're looking for that distance between the knees that really lets the hips and low back relax. The weight of the legs in the hands and the arms. And exploring, working with the belly in our breathing, letting it move freely as we breathe. Okay, let's slide the hands down the shins, see how far down we can come. And then when we've got a place to hold, we'll open up the knees a bit so the soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. A comfortable distance between the knees and a comfortable amount of bend at the knees. If we like, we can pulse the legs here by gently pushing at the heels and gently sinking, bending at the knees. Another variation, if we just soften the knees a bit, bring the legs closer. So feet about hips width apart, and then potentially push out through the feet and see if you can roll up the back. Now, sometimes this isn't comfortable on the vertebra, so in that case, we wouldn't do it, but it's sometimes possible to roll onto the shoulder blades, the upper back, keeping weight out of vertebra by pushing the shoulders into the mat. So technically, this becomes an upside down forward bend. And then we're going to soften a bit. If you're in this pose, soften the legs, soften the back, and shift the weight down again toward the hips. And then let's see if we can have the knees deeply bent, the feet toward the ceiling, just releasing the spine down. So perhaps the top of the hips touching the mat and the back of the waist going toward the mat. And then let's let go where we're holding and have the hands come back up to the knees again. And then use the hands. We'll take the legs in a circle, close together, further apart. Switching a direction when we're ready. And then when the knees come in close together, just bring them touching. And the hands on the outsides of the knees, lightly pressing the legs together. And then with the hands, circle the knees, keeping them in contact. So here we're shifting our weight around the sacrum. At some point, we're going to change direction. And when we feel it's balanced, both sides, just slowing down, pausing, letting the knees naturally separate, letting the feet return. Just giving the hips a chance to rest their weight on the ground. Now, this is optional, but if we wish, just move the arms away from the sides of the body. And if we wish, just let the knees fall over to one side and then look in the opposite direction. When we're ready to, the knees come up and we change sides. So easing side to side, not trying to force the body anywhere. And when we're done, just pausing with the knees back up. Now, before we stretch out the legs, adjust the back. So have the spine feel long on the ground. Let's bring the arms a bit closer to the sides of the body. Let the knees fall outward. And then experience the outside edge of the foot. So right ankle, a little more energy. And push down, scraping out the right side edge of the foot to take the leg long. Release the left And then activate the ankle and scrape it out. Adjust the distance between our feet so it's a comfortable distance.